This is the lecture for Ancient and Medieval History for Thursday, the 22nd of April, 2021. Okay. What you at home will see on another attachment and what people in class will see today. This is from the medieval Islamic city of Cordoba. Cordoba exists in Spain. Cordoba is a place where the Muslims occupied for over 600 years. And here you can see some of the architecture that the Islamic world produces during its zenith, its high point. Now, something similar to Rome, and you can move if you can't see, is late Roman Empire and Byzantine architecture would have columns, and then above the columns there would be arches. So the architecture would look even more airy and light. But these arches don't just start at the semicircle mark. They actually cave in and go out, so it's like most of a circle. That's a little more challenging to do. You got a beautiful use of black and colored marbles, combined with multicolored stones, paints, and filigrees. Here you have textured designs in the walls that make, and the mathematics used to design this building creates optical illusions, like looking off to the side here, and you can see through row after row after row to the side as well as straight ahead. So this is an example of Islamic architecture at its height. And it's different from Byzantine architecture, but it's also finer. As wonderful and beautiful as the Hagia Sophia is, the Hagia Sophia is one building. This sort of stuff was recreated in a variety of places throughout the Islamic world, although I have to say that this is among the best. And look at what we see here. We see the first row of arches, and then above that, another row of arches. So we've got arches upon arches, all designed to create light flowing through the building, air flowing through the building, a sense of place that has you looking through these openings. It's all designed to create a sense of a massive interior space. The use of color, the use of texture, all of that. It wasn't, they obviously didn't have these electric lights. It wasn't just, if they did, the world's history would have been different. It wasn't just the beauty of this place. It was the sense that life can be beautiful. That's a very golden age mentality. Why settle for a box building when you can have something like this? Why settle for a cookie cutter rabbit hutch home when you can have something that is unique, like a Victorian mansion, a beautiful old home? Why settle for something merely functional when you can have something beautiful? What you can't really see is the floorwork. But it's not just the interior. At Cordoba, there were also gardens. And these gardens are still things that the Arabs sing about. 100 years ago, you may remember from the movie, Lawrence of Arabia talking to Prince Faisal, and Prince Faisal talking about the lost gardens of Cordoba. Well, these are those gardens. Now, to a desert people, look at what this garden gives. It gives water features. It gives the sound of water flowing, which is something that Muslims like. I can't say that this pleases me. It actually horrifies and angers me. But my old college in Lewiston, Maine, Bates College, which is one of the better colleges in this country, was founded by Methodist missionaries in the mid-1800s. And it was paid for by a clothing manufacturer, a textile factory owner named Benjamin Bates. It was founded originally to be a school to train Methodist missionaries to go out into the world and spread the faith. It eventually became a liberal arts college and what are called the Little Ivies, which is a set of colleges just below the Ivy League. At the heart of campus was this beautiful old chapel, granite stone chapel with stained glass windows and pews, and it was a Methodist chapel. People have been married there, funerals have been conducted there. It was used for college events, and it was used for religious events when I was there. My wife and I visited the campus about 2006. This is, again, 5 years into the War on Terror. And they had converted it to a multi-faith center with the primary emphasis being a mosque. So this church that was built at the heart of a college that was designed to educate Christian missionaries and that went on to later become a liberal arts college that has a fine tradition of, bringing in all sorts of people, allowed their house of worship to become a mosque. I didn't like that. I still don't. But the first thing I noticed that was different was the sound of water running over rocks. It's a little bit like the sound of the water feature dedicated to Dr. Prozier across the street by the doors to the middle school. And the sound of water features does feature in a lot of mosque architecture. These gardens would have the sound of burbling water. Here you can see water spitting up and burbling down. I don't know if you can sleep in silence. For me, my earliest years were spent in New York City, which is loud. In fact, my parents had an apartment for a while that was right next to an elevated train. So we heard the subway go by every so often. It was loud. When we moved to Connecticut, and I was 4 or 5, 6 maybe, suddenly it was quiet at night. And that quiet was unnerving. I was a kid. I didn't have words for it. I just knew it was creepy. But when I was a teenager, I started sleeping with a fan. I would have a fan running in the summertime, and I would keep the fan running in the wintertime. I wouldn't necessarily have it blowing on me, but I like the sound of a fan when I sleep. I still use one. In more recent times, though, thanks to YouTube, sometimes when my wife and I are looking to just fall asleep, we'll put on a YouTube video of rain, or ocean surf, or the sound of a windy blizzard, because those are also sounds that we associate with rest.
Yeah, when I was young, I lived on an army base in Korea, and we were right next to the heliport area. And so sometimes in the night, you would hear these big military helicopters taking off and landing.
And they're loud.
And they are loud. We kind of got used to it though, because we lived there for a while.
Yeah.
They kind of needed my dad longer than most people, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we came back, we lived in this suburb of Seattle, and it was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of weird. I would be trying to sleep or whatever, and
I
didn't know what I was missing at first, but I used to dream about the helicopters or whatever because they were so loud.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden I was like, this is weird. What's missing? And it took me a while to realize what it was.
I really had difficulty sleeping in the quiet. What's funny is, my wife and I lived for 23 years. We left Connecticut in Maine, and we came back to Connecticut, to visit. And that same area, which seemed so quiet to me, coming from New York City, was hugely loud compared to our home in Maine, in the Maine woods, on our own acre of land, surrounded by forests. Where we lived in Maine was extremely quiet. It was genuinely quiet. So when we went to the suburbs of Connecticut, what had seemed so unnervingly quiet when I was a kid actually was noisy. So a lot of it's relative. It's what you're used to. But I know that for me, if I don't hear a certain type of noise, I listen when I sleep. Part of that's my job as husband and protector. If anything happens, I want to be there to protect my family. But I like a little bit of background noise. The noise of flowing water is one of those comforting sounds. And if you're from the desert, it's the sound of paradise. This garden, is like a slice of paradise. It looks a bit like, I would imagine, the part of paradise that the Shaheed go to, that those who are killed in holy war go to. It's a garden of earthly delights with fountains, with water, and there would be, sweetmeats and tasty fruits and all sorts of other things to give you pleasure, which we've talked about. So these are the gardens of Cordoba that Prince Faisal was, bless you, talking about. Now, this is the Alcathar De Toledo. The city of Toledo is another city that was under Muslim rule for a very long time, and then it came under Christian rule. And Alcathar is like a cross between a castle and a town hall and an army base. It's sort of a building fortress. The Alcathar of Toledo, this is rebuilt because in the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s, it was the site of a major battle and it was largely destroyed by artillery fire. But it was rebuilt to look somewhat like a real Alcathar would look. Again, town hall, army base, castle. So here we have a building that's tall. It has windows, yeah. But it also has thick walls. It has an interior courtyard, which you can just imagine inside this sort of square form outer area. And many cities in Spain and Portugal have these things, these alcázares. And alcázar, gee, that's an Arabic word. Al meaning something, the, and cáthar probably meaning castle. I don't know exactly what it means. But the Alcathar of Toledo is just one, and it's spelled Alcazar, is just one of those carry-ons that the Spanish have from their 600-700 years under Islamic rule. The Spaniards bring horses to the Americas. Those horses are Arabian horses. Because the Arabs conquer Spain, the Spaniards get some of the best horse flesh on the planet. And it's those horse lineages, that they bring across the water to colonies like New Spain and Mexico. And some of those horses escape, and they form the basis of the Mustang herds that are still wandering around the desert southwest of the United States and northern deserts of Mexico. The Mustangs. Spain, I guess I'll come back to what Spain was politically. This is a place in the Zagros Mountains between Iraq and Iran. It's a place called Alamut, a mountain called Alamut. And this is how it looks today. But on this height is a castle which is reimagined in this Iranian propaganda image here. This is what they think the old medieval castle at Alamut looked like. Now, Alamut is going to be the heart of the Hashishaan. The Hashishaan, well, that's the origin of the word assassin. And for hundreds of years, these Hashishaan, these assassins, are going to influence and dominate culture and politics in the Islamic Middle East. During the high point, they have a society of assassins that kills as well. And if you play the Assassin's Creed games, they're working off of this theme of the Hashishaan through the ages. So, actually, I think I'll play this little video too. So to those of you at home, get ready for part 2 when I'm done playing the video.